So one of the next steps is gluing the sides together. I use these little foam brushes, are very helpful for spreading glue. They're like $1 at Home Depot. So we'll just apply glue. Okay, so here's our mold. I said glue them together, I mean clamp them together. So we're gonna clamp it to this mold. I've got it elevated somewhat. All right, so you can see how many clamps I've got here. Now I'm gonna flip it over and clamp the other side also. Okay, so next I'm gonna make the neck block and the tail block. The tail block is 4 3/4 tall, 3 inches wide and 3/4 thick. And the neck block is 3 3/4 tall, 2.5 inches wide, 2 inches thick. And so I've got some maple that I'm gonna use, and I'm gonna cut up, that's about at 1 inch thick. And I'm gonna cut these up and glue them together to form blocks. Okay, so for the tail block, I don't have to glue anything up, but for the neck block, I do. So So the tail block piece, it's a little thick, so I'm gonna run it through this drum sander to get it thickness to 3/4 of an inch. All right, so I'm gonna undo all these clamps. By the way, Harbor Freight is the cheapest place to get some of these clamps. They're these gray ones here. They're these. Yeah, I don't love them as much as the Jorgensen clamps, but these are like half the price. And so when you need a bunch of them for something like this, these work pretty well. Okay, so I took it out of the form, double sides glued together. I just need to clean up the edges, but it looks really good. So I'm gonna square up the dimensions of the neck block. Okay, so I put the side back in the mold, and I've clamped it really tight in here. I've made sure it's completely flat on the other side. I even took my small little plane. I planed away any irregularities, got the glue off of there. And then what I'm gonna do is mark where I'm gonna cut these sides at on both sides. Okay, so what I've done here, I've clamped my side down. I've got a little dovetail saw. You can also use one of those Japanese pull saws, and just line it up. I kind of already got it started, so I know where I'm going here. But you can use a block. I'm using my tail block there as a guide. Lay it down there. So I've got the other piece in here, and I've got a really good idea now where to mark this. And I'm gonna mark it, but I'm gonna cut well outside that line, because then I'll just fine tune it on the sander. Okay, so I cut it well outside the line, and I'm gonna use this sander just to kind of get it a little bit closer. So the back seam is actually pretty nice looking. The back seam does not have to be perfect, because there's going to be an end graft back there. So any little errors, mistakes, that'll be covered. The front seam needs to be as tight as possible, because there is an area that you will see. And so I've still got a little bit more to go on this. And so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to use that sander to inch up on it and make sure that it's as perfect as I can make it. Okay, so I got it all trimmed up. Got it into the mold. It fits really well. The front seam is really tight. Back seam, not as tight, but like I said, doesn't matter as much. So the next step is gluing in the neck block and the tail block. Next step is we're gonna glue the neck block and the tail block in. Now, obviously, this is slightly curved here. So I'm gonna have to also curve this. Same thing with the tail block. Okay, so I'm gonna get this a little closer to the curvature of the body. Okay, and so I've taped a bit of 80 grit sandpaper onto the front here. I got it close with the belt sander, and then I'm just gonna do this right here. Another thing you can do is make some pencil marks, witness marks on your wood. And so as you sand, once your pencil lines have all disappeared, you know you're flush. So I still have a little bit to go on this. Okay, so now I'm gonna glue the neck block on. And if you notice, my neck block has a little L shape here. It's got a 2 3/4 inch little ledge on it. The reason for that is the way that I learned to build was the guy that I learned from, on his fretboard, he has a little fretboard support block under the end that insets into here. Not everyone does it that way, but anyway, regardless. Okay, now I'm going to glue on the tail block. Okay, so here it is with the neck block and the tail block glued in. And this is the bottom side, and so obviously there's going to be a lot of trimming to do here. And but yeah, it turned out really well. Okay, so I'm going to cut the wood for the neck blank. And to start off with, the rough cut is going to be 30 inches long, and it's going to need to be 4.5 inches wide. And so I'm going to cut those pieces. Okay, and I'm going to measure this to, and I've already done that, 4.5 inches is what I'm going to cut these boards to. Alright, so on this neck, what I'm going to do, this is zebra wood. I'm going to have a couple of thin strips of zebra wood with maple. So I'm going to split this piece in half so I have my thin strips. Okay, so this is how my neck blank will look once I get it glued up. This part here, I was shooting for 3.5, but honestly it needs to be at least 3 inches to accommodate whatever headstock you're using. There's my headstock that I'm going to be using, and it's got plenty of space there. So what I'm going to do though is run these things through the drum sander to get the sides as smooth as possible before I glue them up. So I'm going to glue these blanks up with using a lot of clamps. Okay, so here's the neck blank all glued up. I've probably got about 30 clamps on it. Next thing to do is unclamp it. Then you can use a chisel. Pick a chisel you don't love very much to scrape away the excess glue. I've already done it on the other side. So I need to flatten the top of these. If my drum sander would accommodate this size wood, I would probably use my drum sander. It won't. So my planer will. So what I'm going to do is plane both sides of this. So running it through my planer, one thing I kind of discovered, it's not 100% square. I mean, it's just off just a little. And so what I'm doing, I'm taking my planer and I'm just barely touching that wood with the blade. And I'm running along that right edge to see if I can get it more square. So I got this one side pretty square, so what I'll do, I'll run this back through the planer, this side face down, and it should square up the other side. So here is my neck blank. I've got it all squared away, and now what I'm going to do, I've got a template here. Now this template represents the final dimensions of the neck. So when I cut out this, rough cut this neck out, I actually and I went ahead and marked it. I brought it down just a little bit, okay? And I'm gonna use a very thick pencil to trace this outline out because I want a little bit of thickness to this rough cut. You notice I'm able to trace two necks on here. And so I'll cut both of those out. You'll have an extra neck. At the very least, if you mess up on one, you've got a second one in reserve. So we'll go ahead, take these to the bandsaw and cut them out. Okay, here's the necks in two pieces. Next, I'm going to take them back to the bandsaw and cut them out a little closer, but I'm going to stay well away from the line. And so I'll be back once I do that. So guys, I almost screwed up pretty bad. So when I put this template on here, I did not add an inch for the tenon. And so I started cutting out the other one and realized that. So this one's pretty much ruined. And so I'm going to retrace my template, and it even says it on the template. You can't read it, but it says add 1 inch for tenon. So I've added an inch there, and then I'm going to retrace my neck and cut it out on the bandsaw. Okay, I've put the template back on here, flushed it to the top, and I'm going to trace exactly where this headstock is. Then I'm going to take this over to the sander and flatten out this headstock, the top of it. Okay, so you can see where my line is. I'm going to take this over to the sander and flush this out. And when I sand it, I want to make sure that my line comes straight across this line here. Okay, so the neck blank is cut out. Sanded the headstock, sanded it at the correct angle across this line. Looks really good so far. Next, we're going to cut the truss rod slot. So I'm going to find my center point on this neck blank, draw the center point. I've got a 1/4 inch bit for the truss rod, which is 1/4 inch, and I've got an 1/8 inch bit for carbon fiber rods that I'm going to put in the neck also. So use my calipers to find my center line on this neck blank, and then I'm going to mark that center. Just kind of a tip, take a cut off from your neck blank, mark that has a flat spot, mark the center line on that. We can use this as a sacrificial piece to make sure our router bit's lined up. Then, just so we can reference where our carbon fiber rods go, I'm going to trace out the fretboard with this template. Just as a means of reference, the 14th fret should line up where the neck meets the body. Okay, so this truss rod is a 420 millimeter truss rod, which equals about 16 and something. I'd have to look at it. But anyway, it needs to extend at least 3 inches past where the neck meets the body. And so what I'm going to do is mark that down here. So we've got it right there. My carbon fiber rods, I'm going to have to cut these. I'll probably use a hacksaw to cut these, but they're going to extend the same. And these little stripes here look like a convenient spot to put those in. I know they're straight, so I'll trace that along the inner line of these little stripes when I route the pocket for these. Yes, you can cut carbon fiber rods with your bandsaw. Okay, I ran my test piece through, came in right in the middle, so I will run my neck through. Okay, looks really good, very centered. Now I'll slowly increase the depth until I get the depth that I need for this. You don't want to do it all in one pass. You want to do it a little at a time. And the way to get your final depth on this is just use your truss rod as a guide, and right there. Okay, looks really good. And what I'll do is just simply repeat the same process with a smaller bit for these carbon fiber rods. So one tip is, once you've routed as far as you're going to route, leave your workpiece in place and turn the machine off and don't move it. Once it stops, then you can move it. Here's the finished neck blank with the truss rod slots and the carbon fiber slots, and so on to the next part.